North Central wrapped up its second-to-last home game of the regular season in style with a big homecoming win over Carthage College, 72-20, the program's most points in a game in 2 years. Now the toughest stretch of NCC's schedule begins, with 2 straight road games against the best in the CCIW. The real test for an 8th straight conference crown begins now on the Red Zone. Welcome inside the Red Zone. I'm Justin Zipser. North Central head coach John Thorne joins us to open the show, as you do each and every week. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Good to be here.
72-20, another big victory over CCIW opponent in Carthage College. This is a team that we thought maybe you would do pretty well against, and it turned out that 72 points, not too shabby.
Well, the guys came out fast, and that first quarter, it just became 28-0 so quickly. Steve Laramitis, as soon as the defense stopped him, three downs and punt, he goes through, blocks the punt, scoops it up, scores. That's always a great way to start a game, you know. And then later in the game, it was really fun to watch Denzel Thompson break loose for a couple long touchdown runs, and the whole team got excited for him. So it was a fun day for most everybody.
And Denzel had an 80-yard touchdown run. Later, he had a 51-yard touchdown run. Really, these are pretty incredible runs. He was playing against the first-team defense in Carthage in the second half, and it's always good to see Denzel. He's kind of fallen back a little bit on the depth chart this year, but really made the most of his time in that second half.
He's had a lot of injuries and things over the years, and he's just determined. These last couple weeks, he's really putting much more effort into it. His body's healthier, and so we were just thrilled. Everybody was so excited that some really good stuff happened for him.
The 4th longest run from scrimmage in North Central College history, that 80-yard.
Okay, yeah.
Before we get into anything else, let's look at the highlight tape and see exactly how North Central won. Homecoming weekend in Naperville, Cardinals hosting Carthage. North Central with a chance to improve to 7-0. Carthage still struggling this year under first-year coach Tim Yeager on a 5-game losing streak. Cards on the board before the offense even steps on the field. Carthage first possession, 3-and-out. Steve Laramitis blocks Pete Yarakovic's punt, takes it straight to the house for the opening score just over a minute into the game. After a nice Shane Durking punt return, North Central back on offense. Doesn't take long to get into the red zone. Spencer Stanek rolls out, finds Peter Sorensen on the outside. 2 stiff arms later, Cardinals set up nicely. On 2nd and goal, Stanek floats to Ryan Kent. The junior does the rest, 14-0 Cardinals. Same story for North Central next time in the red zone, standing to Sorensen, his first of 2 touchdown grabs in the first half, 21-zip NCC. After Sorensen's second, Stanek sticking with what works, going through the air. 50 yards later, the ball drops into the hands of DeMarco Tillman. Can't stay on his feet long enough to cross the plane of the end zone. Ryan Kent has his back. 1st and goal, Kent right up the middle for his second of the game. Kent with 97 yards and a yards per rush average, more than 19. Another possession, another Kent touchdown. Bowling over defenders like pins en route to a 68-yard cruise to the end zone. 3 tutties on the afternoon ties his career high, 55-0 North Central at intermission. Defense only gives up 41 yards in the first half. Nick Days kept the second half interesting. The all-time leading point scorer in school history is still breaking ground. His field goal good from 56 yards, a new North Central record. So we talked just a little bit ago about Steve Laramitis and his block return punt. That really got things started, and you're a special teams guy. More special teams influx play this past weekend. We had another kick called back. I know you wanted to get that kickoff stuff worked out before the meat of the CCIW schedule began, but I assume it's still a work in progress here.
It sure is. We got some great double team blocks on our kickoff return. But some of our single blocks broke down, and some of the guys back there catching the ball, they banged into each other on one. We let one bounce on the ground. All those are kind of no-nos on kickoff returns, so we still got things to work with the back end of it. Probably the most disappointing one was the beautiful 91-yard punt return for a touchdown by John Skokna and the punt return team. They did a great job blocking for him. Two starters on the defense were splitting time as an anti-gunner. So they both got on the field and they stood there and stared at each other for a while, and finally one of them said, "You got to get off." And he kind of jogged off. We're creating new ways to make special teams look ugly, I guess. So we got to keep working on stuff, or I'm going to have to fire myself.
Well, even that stuff aside, the first half was really impressive for the team. 55-0 was the halftime score. You guys had a yard advantage, 351-41. You only gave up 41 yards in that first half. 8 punts forced. You only gave up 1 third down conversion. Really, all facets of the game are excelling in that first half, especially all year long.
Most every game we've come out and had some good things happen by definitely the offense and defense. A few times we've had good things happen by special teams also in the first half. So now it's really important that continues, because now we're going to have to not only do it in the first half, but play 4 quarters. So we're really excited to get into this stretch of the season. This is what we've been waiting for all season long. Now let's find out, have we done our homework right? Have we worked hard enough? Are we big enough, strong enough, fast enough, and all of those things? So we can't wait for Saturday. We know it's going to be a really tough battle. Wesleyan's got a great team. They're very tough at home. And so it should be a great game for the fans to come and watch.
Well, as a coach, when you are coaching a team 7 games through, and you're playing a lot of teams that at the time of playing them have, no wins or 1 win on the year, and then you jump immediately to an unbeaten team in Wesleyan, which we'll talk a little bit more in depth later in the show. How difficult for you is that for you as a coach when you have to go from 1 wins to 7 wins just like that?
Not difficult at all. The great thing about playing the teams that where you're going to get ahead, and you get to play a lot of players. And the important thing in coaching is you want to continue to develop the program so it stays good year after year after year. So we've had a great stretch here where we've played a lot of young guys and a lot of our number 2s. So now they're ready to step in if somebody got injured, if we need them. And it won't be just this big shock. I haven't even hardly played, So only positive things happen when you get to play lots of players like that. Now, the varsity guys, they've just been chomping at the bit, waiting for a game where they can play all 4 quarters. So they're going to be very, very excited.
Well, keep it right here. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming matchup against Wesleyan with Coach Thorne after the break.
Yes, ready. Let's go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
We're back inside the Red Zone. Coach Thorne with us for a few more minutes. And Coach, you're an Illinois Wesleyan graduate, so is your defensive coordinator, Mike Murray. It's kind of, I think that's always an interesting thing when you get to face a former team. You obviously have a lot of respect for this program. What's it going to be like coming back? This is one of your biggest games against Wesleyan in really a number of years.
We've had some really important games with Wesleyan over the last 12 years. This is probably the biggest one, and so we're really looking forward to it. They're very well coached. Their linemen, especially on both offense and defense, play with low pad level, and they're strong, they're fast, they're physical, and they're good on special teams. They've made a lot of big plays on special teams. Their quarterback is back. He throws well. They've got 2 running backs that run the ball very well, big, tall receivers. And defensively, they've got so many guys with experience. I mean, there's like 30 seniors on this thing, and a lot of them start on defense, and so we're expecting a real good battle. So that's exactly the kind of games we really love, because it's gonna take a lot of hard work and a lot of determination to get it done.
Well, including this game, 3 contests left on the season schedule, the regular season schedule at the very least. This is a game that will settle for this week at least first place. Both teams unbeaten at 7-0. Normesh really always puts his guys out in a strong position. Last year, kind of an interesting game last year. Both teams were ranked, similar to this year as well. And you guys won 52-0. I'm sure you're hoping for a similar result. What do you want to do to get that similar result this year?
Well, it was unfortunate last year because they lost some really key players, especially losing the quarterback. It was a non-contact injury, just boom, his knee just went out. So that's going to be a totally different situation. Plus, we're playing down there. You know, in our conference, it's much, much harder to play on the road than it is to play at home, and especially a place like Wesleyan. So we're expecting it to be very difficult, and they're a lot healthier this year. So we'll see. We're starting to get healthy. We're getting a few guys back. We lost one or two more, but we've got 2 or 3, 4 guys back that haven't been playing that much. So we're hoping that our guys are ready to really play a great game.
Normesh, the squad in his 27 years, always very good at home, 74% win percentage in his 27-year tenure, 59% on the road, so it will be tougher at home in Bloomington. And while most consider Wheaton College North Central's main rivalry, the other CCIW rivalry that is fast approaching Cardinals' thunder in terms of respect, as we examine in this week's Cardinal Corner, is the one against the ever-improving Illinois Wesleyan Titans.
North Central and Wheaton. For years, the battle for the Little Brass Bell has been the enduring image of Cardinals football and its biggest rival. And while that yearly Wheaton game deservingly gets the most attention, the duels with Illinois Wesleyan are increasing in importance.
We like to talk back and forth, so I mean, we're going into this game ready to play, fired up. I mean, it's the first full game that we're expecting to play, so we're ready to go.
Part of the reason why the rivalry has become heated is because of the dominance of North Central in recent years. Wesleyan hasn't won since an overtime game in 2009. Since then, the Cardinals have won the last 3 meetings by a combined score of 106-7. But this year, the Titans are 7-0 for the first time since 1996 and beat Wheaton last week 30-19.
It's still one of those games on our schedule that we have circled every year. We know we have to beat Wesleyan. We know we have to beat Wheaton. The last several years, it's been the 3 of us battling it out for the conference championship. So no question, they're a great team. They've been a great team. It's a great program, great school. So we've got our work cut out for us.
And after a 52-0 beatdown from the Cardinals last year, you can bet the Titans will come out firing, bringing more heat to this growing rivalry.
I mean, we're all fired up. We're watching film constantly, and it means a lot. I mean, between them and Wheaton, it's, those are the 2 games we look forward to before the season starts.
So as we mentioned, Mike Murray is an Illinois Wesleyan grad. He graduated in the 80s and was an all-CCIW tight end. And now he's coached there before. He's on the other side of the rivalry, and his defense has looked fantastic this year. Really coming into its own as the season is going along. We talked to Coach Murray. He said, as the weeks go on, more and more plays will be added to the playbook. What have you seen out of the defense this year as the weeks go by?
Well, each week it's been fun to see him continue to develop. And I'm excited to see what he has to pull out this week, because I know we've saved a few things that we thought would be good against a team like Wesleyan, a team like Wheaton, and so forth. So it's going to be exciting to see if our guys can perform those things at full speed and with confidence, and add pressure to their offense. So he's got, I think, 2 of his family members are still working at Illinois Wesleyan. There's going to be a huge tailgate there with all of his family, it's a big group. And so it's really going to be a fun weekend for Coach Murray and for all of us. It's always nice to get back to Bloomington. It's a beautiful place, and we just want to play some great football while we're there.
And when you win 7 straight CCIW championships and you're going for your 8th, obviously when it comes down to it, the games that determine that CCIW championship later in the year are the ones that are the most important. Any sense of a difference in mood this week in practice as you get set for this very important matchup?
Yeah, there is. There will be a difference in the coaches and the players. We all look forward to these kind of games. I mean, this is why you try to play football. You know, you want that challenge. You want to have to fight all 4 quarters and have an opponent that is really skilled and working hard, and they're enthusiastic about it too. So it'll be a pretty rowdy stadium, I think, and a lot of great football should take place.
Coaches are looking forward to it. Players are looking for it. We are looking forward to it as well. And we thank you for stopping on by, Coach Thorne.
Thank you.
We switch from Coach Thorne to a couple of main cogs in the NCC football machine next in the Red Zone.
Hi, my name's CJ. A few years ago, my father became seriously ill. I did what I could do before he passed, but it took its toll. I lost my job, my house. I'm getting back on my feet, but I don't know when there'll be food on the table. How'd I do, CJ?
We could be twins.
Well, cousins, maybe.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
We're back inside the Red Zone. Offensive lineman Greg Whalen and linebacker and special teamer Nathan Schweitzer on set with us, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, guys, as we talked with Coach Thorne, coming off a big win against Carthage College and haven't scored this many points in a number of, actually 2 years exactly, a game a couple years ago when you put up over 80 points. So on offense, what's it like putting up that number of points? Obviously, you work quickly on offense, especially in that first quarter. You did a lot to get on the board quickly in that game.
Yeah, it was nice to see the execution of our offense, the speed. I think 6 of our drives were less than 2 minutes, and they were all scoring drives. So that's something we aim for, and it was nice to see that execution.
And Nathan, you are one of the longtime long snappers on this North Central team, and one of the cool things that happened this past week in the game against Carthage was Nick Dace's 56-yarder. Obviously, you worked with Dace for a number of years now. What's it like seeing Nick get on the board in a new way? He's been in the record book so many times in his North Central career, and now he's finding new ways to do that.
Yeah, it's great. He always finds new ways to get into the record books. And I know this year we've been kind of trying to find a good mix of snapper, holder, kicker, and it's just really great when Dace can get something like that where everything comes together. It's the perfect fit. You hit a huge field goal like that, it just boosts your confidence. And it's good for all of us, and it's good for him, especially going into the much tougher games, to have that confidence to know that almost anywhere inside the 40 we can go out there if our offense can get the ball on the other side of the field, and Dace can go out and do what he does.
And you mentioned that you've worked with a number of holders this year. You started with Peter Sorensen, you flipped over to Kevin Loof for a couple of weeks, and now it's Ryan Rizak. How does that affect your job as a long snapper?
Well, I mean, for me, it really doesn't change a lot. My job is to just get it back to him. And the thing that Kevin, Peter, and Ryan have all been able to do is they have great hands, and they really work really hard at placing the ball well for Dace. So it doesn't change my job at all. It's just good to see when the three of us can work together and really succeed.
And Greg, going back to you on the offensive line, we talked a little bit about this last week, that there's been sort of a revolving door because of injuries. You've had guys step up and kind of take the place of injured players, Eric Naparick, John Hosey, Mark DeLaurier, Pat Bolger. These guys are coming through, and with that next man up mentality, are really doing well in their new roles. As one of the guys, as the only guy that hasn't missed a single game this year on the offensive line, how have you sort of ushered in those new players and helped them get up to speed on game time?
It really hasn't been anything that I've done. Our coaches do a great job of preparing those young guys, and they've had the right mindset to come in and really succeed. They've done a great job kind of ironing out the schemes in their head, some guys at new positions. So I've been really proud of them and the way they've all stepped up.
And for you, you've worked very well with Jace Werkheiser, who's a preseason All-American. You were a first-team All-CCIW selection last year. You guys did a great job anchoring the offensive line. You've only given up 11 sacks through the first 7 games of the year, about 1.5 per game. How much does it make it? How much easier does it make it on offense for your other players, the skill position players, when they know that they have time in the pocket, like Spencer Stanek, or they can be opened up holes for, like these running backs?
Well, I mean, giving Spencer the time to make his reads and go through his progressions is obviously really important. We all know what he can do with time. So that's really something we aim for, is giving him a good 4 seconds to look over the defense and find the open man.
Nathan, how is special teams? You mentioned that there have been some struggles here and there throughout the season. What are you trying to perfect as a special teams unit going to these super important CCIW games?
Well, I think this year, although we have struggled numbers-wise, I think we do a lot of good things on special teams. A lot of times it's the 1 or 2 mistakes we make that come back to bite us. So although we're not where we want to be, I think we're very close. So the things that we're trying to work on is having everyone do their job. And when that happens, really, that's when special things really come out.
You did a lot of special things this week on special teams, and really all 3 phases of the game, as we take a look in this week's What's the Word?
Our main thing has been working on our blocking with our kickoff return. We're lower, I think, in our conference on our kickoff return, so we've been trying to work that and bust some big returns. It's great. We've been trying to piece together our special teams this year. We were struggling in the beginning, and it's kind of all coming together. Our offense is doing well, our defense is doing well. Once our special team comes well, we'll be doing pretty good.
I've had my ups and downs this season, but just to get that, on homecoming in front of the home crowd, it was really nice today.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. Coming into the next 3 games and hopefully into the playoffs, we'll have all 3 of the aspects of the game to be clicking. So seeing this late in the season is really promising.
With our offense and our defense, they're going to do well, but games like that, they're going to be a tough grind. That's when our special teams need to step up and make a big play like that.
So Coach Thorne mentioned that there's a special vibe in practice this week, and for obvious reasons, playing Wesleyan. It's another big game, this season where you face them as another ranked opponent, 2 ranked opponents going against one another. How hyped are you for this game? It's very special.
Obviously, I'm really excited. I think our whole team is really excited. The whole year, we've had these 2 weeks, this week and next week, circled on our calendar, just ready to get down to Bloomington and get mentally prepared and take care of business.
And for you, Nathan, how difficult was it for you? Obviously, the coaches do such a good job for you guys, grounding you into reality, saying 1 game at a time. You knew Carthage was coming up this past weekend. You knew these next 2 games against Wesleyan and Wheaton were coming up. How difficult for you and the general sense of the team to keep it locked on 1 game at a time?
I think it's important, regardless of who you're playing, every week to prepare to the best of your ability and to really prepare yourselves for when you do play the really good teams. And earlier this season, the first couple games of CCIW, we've really tried to focus on doing the best we can for our unit, regardless of who we're playing. And the good things about when we do start playing the Wesleyans and the Wheatons are, then on Saturdays we really are put to the test, and you really find out how well you prepared and what you're made of. So we're really excited.
We're sure you guys prepared very well, and we wish you the best of luck. We can't wait to see you down in Bloomington.
Thanks. Thank you.
When we return, North Central Sports Information Director Clark Tuscher joins us to talk about a very important week in Cardinals cross country. Next on the Red Zone.
Today is Saturday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. Get ideas. Get involved. Get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
The Red Zone is back. We appreciate you tuning in. We wrap up another episode with North Central SID. Clark Tuscher. Clark, thanks for joining us, as you do every week.
Thanks for having me.
We will begin with a little cross-country talk. It's a very important week for both the men's and women's teams with the CCIW championships coming up. North Central is technically hosting these matchups, and the men favored to win for, 40th consecutive season, and the women looking to get back on track. They didn't win last year, but they have won 3 of the past 4 years.
Yeah, the women got knocked off last year. Had one of those years where they kind of had to reload the roster a little bit. They've done that to pretty good effect this past season. They've gotten better every single meet. They've ran against most of this competition. The only one that beat them was Augustana, and that was back in September. They've gotten a lot better since then. So it's certainly favorable conditions for them to contend for another championship. The men are going for their 40th consecutive championship. It'd be the 44th in the 48 years that Alcarius has been the coach, which, there's not many programs that have done that. You could count them on one hand probably. So I think that's on the minds of a lot of the guys that are on the team. Yes, they're trying to win it for themselves, but they're also feel like they've got a sense of responsibility to the people that have come before them and built that up for them to continue it on, past this season as well.
That's a great point, because when you have that sense of history, really, you're not playing for just the team and your coach and your fans. You're playing for that long line of North Central athletes that have come before you and succeeded on that same stage as you're about to go into. For the women, I want to back up a little bit because, like you said, they've reloaded the roster. They've, over the course of the year, started to look better and better and better. What kind of expectations are there for the women this year?
From the team itself, really it's just about, performing to the best of their ability. They've got, I think 6 of their 7 top competitors at every meet have been the same people. They've been pretty consistent as far as not only who's been in front, but in terms of improving their own performances individually. So I think, in terms of, they want to make sure that they, remember that they are supposed to be one of those teams that's up in the front, contending for the lead, and carry that attitude and that confidence forward. But in terms of actually, in terms of placing everything, I know they would like to win, but really for them it's about making sure that everybody performs to the best of their ability, and the team scores will take care of themselves.
Let's flip over to North Central women's lacrosse, and this is a team that had its best season this past season, and in 2014, 2015, they'll be starting in a more familiar stomping ground as far as the conference goes.
The CCIW announced it's going to sponsor both men's and women's lacrosse, starting with the 2015 season. Obviously, that only affects us on the women's side at this point. So we have one more year in the MWLC before moving on. As more of the colleges in the CCIW have expanded to include lacrosse, there are some others that have got plans for that in the near future. So it became a point where we had enough to kind of house all that under the same umbrella, and the conference decided now was the time to go ahead and make that move.
Clark, good thoughts as always. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week. That's all for this week, but before we go, one last reminder, North Central football down in Bloomington this Saturday with first place in CCIW on the line against Wesleyan. Stay up to date with the game on NorthCentralCardinals.com and look for highlights and interviews this weekend on YouTube.com/North Central Sports. I'm Justin Zipser. See you next week on the Red Zone.